Oh my, it is a hot day. I need to sit down. Oh, do you mind if I sit here and share this table with you?
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
You can sit there.
Oh. So you look mighty busy.
I am
Yeah.
trying to get this homework done.
Homework. Oh, homework on a weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that must be a one hard school you go to.
It is a hard
Goodness.
school.
Oh, can I tell you something that happened to me?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm planning a party, you know.
Okay.
I went to my normal party store, and it was closed down. All of those branches were closed down. Could you believe it? They were having some type of computer problem, electricity problem. They had to shut it all down. And I couldn't get my party supplies from that store.
Well, that's a shame.
I know. And these days I don't like to get out more than I need to, but I had to find another part because I couldn't have to cancel my party.
No,
you know.
absolutely. Were you ever able to find what you needed?
I was. My husband said, let's try this one more spot. Let's just try. So we went. Luckily, they were having the same problem. Apparently, it was industry-wide. But they were able to bring all of their stuff on the outside, so it was kind of a sidewalk sale.
Okay.
Sometimes it made it a little bit easier for me because going inside, even when the electricity is on, these eyes don't work like they used to.
Okay.
So I was able to find what I needed.
That's awesome. Well, I'm just curious, how did they have you pay for it?
Oh.
If it was out, the electricity was out.
Oh, I only pay with cash, honey. I don't do those credit cards and debit cards. I just don't trust that. So yeah, I was able to pay with my cash. So luckily it worked out, and we're ready for our party. Oh, it's a hot day today, isn't it?
It
Whew.
is hot.
Goodness.
So they had everybody paying with cash, huh?
They did.
Well, that
They
sounds
did.
like a business continuity plan. They must have had a disaster recovery plan in place.
A disaster what?
It's disaster recovery and business continuity. So basically, business continuity just means that the company is able to keep working and keep their business going even though there's a disruption or a disaster that affects them. And the way that they do that is by implementing or establishing a disaster recovery plan so they're ready.
So what does someone have to do in order to put one of those plans into place?
Well, every company is different, and for example, the one that you went to, all they had to do was move some things outside, make sure they had enough cash on hand just so that they could actually take payments. But with some companies, like the company that I work for, it's a larger company, it can be quite a bit more complicated. They have to understand what threatens the company, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of different things that could go wrong, so they have to understand all the things that could go wrong and create contingency plans for all those things. They also have to back up all their data, which is where they basically just copy it to another location. And they have to test the retrieval process to make sure that at that location they can actually have access to that information. And more importantly, they have to find out where they should store the information, because just like with that other company, it was industry-wide, so it affected a lot of different areas. So they have to make sure they choose the right area that will not be affected, and they store all their data at that site. Additionally, they have to make sure that they have a site available to where they can go to that site and have computers, applications, software and hardware available, and furniture and all the equipment that they may need to keep the business going, because they don't want any gaps in their business. So basically, they want to make sure they have a plan in place and a list of people who are going to be involved in keeping the company running, because they probably can't keep everybody around. They have to make sure they have a list, and they have contact numbers for those people, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So you can imagine when there's, for example, an emergency or a disaster going on, imagine the chaos it could cause if the outside world wasn't aware that you were in control of the situation. So it's also important to make sure you have public relations and the actual spokespeople in place, so everybody doesn't talk.
Oh, I understand that talking. Oh, talk happens in all of my little groups that I'm in.
Yeah, so you just want to make sure to present a united front so people don't get too worried. Once again, I work in the banking industry, so you can imagine how stressed out and chaotic things could get if people weren't aware that you were in control. so you want to make sure you establish the right methods of communication. And last but not least, you want to test all your information regularly and actually, getting that information at the backup site to make sure if something does go wrong, you're ready.
So why is that important?
Well, like you said, for example, with that sidewalk company that was selling their items outside, imagine all the competitive advantages they got from being open. I mean, for example, how likely are you to keep going to that company now that you know they're ready in case something goes wrong, and they'll always be ready to serve you if you have any party supply needs.
Absolutely. I think I will go there again,
Yeah, and also just reducing losses. So when you're down, you're not getting business, and you're having losses and costs involved with getting everything back up and running if you're not prepared. So you just never know when there's going to be a hurricane or a terrorist attack happen.
Oh, so is that kind of what happened after 9/11? Did they have to use all those things then, that continuity and disaster recovery?
Absolutely. Well, they weren't really quite prepared at that time, but it did bring disaster recovery planning into the forefront of people's minds because a lot of people weren't prepared for terrorist attacks. For example, do you know Citibank?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So that their parent company, Citicorp, whenever 9/11 happened, they just had a really basic, standard disaster recovery plan in place. And I know they had a lot of losses. Let me just check real quick, and just because I know it was a lot. Here it is. They had $700 million in losses because
Wow.
they weren't ready.
I can't even imagine that much money, honey. That is a lot.
It is
Wow.
a lot of money. So
And they
basically,
lost all of that?
all of it.
Wow.
And they just weren't ready. And I mean, imagine the consumer confidence, like the losses there as well.
After having this conversation, it makes me think of something that I talked to my grandson about. Oh, my grandson, he's such a sweet boy. I wish he was here to join this conversation because he would really enjoy talking shop with someone like you. But he told me about his company, and he goes out of town, I think once a year. How often are you supposed to go out of town, would you say?
Well, how often you should test your disaster recovery plan, I'm sure that's probably what you're referring to.
Oh.
It really just depends on different things. So basically it kind of depends on the type of organization you work for, the turnover of key personnel, so how often people are leaving the company who are involved in that plan that we discussed, and also the number of changes in technology and or business processes. So I'm sure technology changes every day, and we have to make sure that we adopt those changes into our plan and actually test to make sure everything's running smoothly. How often does he go out of town?
He goes about once a year. Oh, I love that technology. I like to keep it in my house. But he told me about that hurricane, that Sandy hurricane.
Yeah.
I think that was in 2012. But he said that was a time when they really had to think about their plan and redo some things because the plan that they had everything kept in the Northeast. However, after that, they decided to split the recovery. So it was some pieces here in Florida, I think, and some up north. So they were able to make it a stronger plan, I think he said.
Okay, so they moved some things down north to the secondary site.
Yes,
Like.
yeah,
Okay.
that sounds right. I can't get all this terminology right, so forgive me. But the other thing that he told me about is he had me read this article about NASDAQ. Do you know that NASDAQ?
Yeah, the stock exchange.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's it. He told me that, did you know that their systems, if they go down, it could impact not only our country, but the world?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Isn't that just horrendous? That is huge.
That is
big.
horrendous.
Yeah, big stuff. But I think that article said that now they have places in Maryland and possibly Connecticut. But don't take my word for it. I can't keep all these facts straight any longer. But it sounds like what you're talking about and making sure that they have their business located in correct spots to keep their business running.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's important. And you know, for example, when you said the Nasdaq, with a banking industry or a brokerage firm, for example, you know, just being down for 1 hour can mean $6.5 million in losses.
Wow.
So you can imagine how important it is.
That is very important. Well, I sure wish that my sweet grandson was here to have this conversation with you. I just know he would have enjoyed it.
Well, I sure do wish he was here too. You do, but yeah, basically you just want to make sure that everything's in place and you test everything regularly. Make sure everyone understands what they're supposed to do if the worst should happen, and update everything as often as possible. That way, if something happens, we're all prepared.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. What did you say your name was? I didn't even get to ask.
My name is Kristen Edenfield, and yours?
Oh, I'm Beverly.
Beverly. Well, it was
Beverly.
nice meeting you, Beverly.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye bye.